Hello students, today we will be studying the osteological features seen in the middle cranial fossa. Now what we see here is the anterior cranial fossa. This is the middle cranial fossa and this is the posterior cranial fossa. Now let us see what are the boundaries of the middle cranial fossa. Anteriorly, it is bounded by the posterior border of the lesser wing of sphenoid, the anterior clinoid process, and the anterior border of the sulcus kygmaticus, and the same thing on the opposite side. The posterior border is formed by the superior border of the petrous part of the temporal bone, the posterior clinoid processes, and the dorsum sellae. Lateral boundary on each side is formed by the greater wing of the sphenoid bone, the anteroinferior angle of the parietal bone, and the squamous part of the temporal bone. The floor of each middle cranial fossa is formed by central portion is formed by the body of the sphenoid bone, while the lateral portion on each side is formed by the greater wing of sphenoid, the squamous part of the temporal bone, and the anterior surface of the petrous part of the temporal bone. So these were the bones forming the boundary of the middle cranial fossa. Now let us see the specific features that are seen here. Sulcus kygmaticus. It is a transversely running groove just behind the jugum sphenoidale. It is named after its relation with the optic chiasma, which never comes in contact with it but lies postero-superior to the sulcus. The sulcus kygmaticus, when traced laterally, leads into the optic canal. Next, we see the optic canal. It connects the middle cranial fossa with the bony orbit. It is bounded by the anterior and posterior roots of the lesser wing of sphenoid bone and the body of sphenoid bone. It transmits the optic nerve, ophthalmic artery, and meninges. Next, we go on to see the tuberculum sellae. It forms an elevation just behind the sulcus kygmaticus. The middle clinoid processes are the lateral prominent ends of the tuberculum sellae. It receives attachment of the anterior margin of the diaphragma sella. Next, we will see the sella turcica. It is a hollow depression just behind the tuberculum sellae. It is shaped like a Turkish saddle and therefore named as sella turcica. The hypophyseal fossa is the deepest part in it and it lodges the pituitary gland. The sphenoidal air sinus is present below the floor of the hypophyseal fossa. Next, we see the dorsum sellae. It is the back of the Turkish saddle. It is a square plate bone behind the sella turcica. The superior angles of the dorsum sellae project laterally as the posterior clinoid processes. Diaphragma sella is attached to the upper margin of the dorsum sellae. Anterior end of the attached margin of tentorium cerebelli is attached to the posterior clinoid processes. Next, we see the carotid sulcus. It is observed as a shallow groove on each side of the body of the sphenoid bone. It lodges the cavernous sinus enclosing the cavernous or third part of the internal carotid artery. It extends posteriorly up to the foramen lacerum. The lateral margin of the carotid sulcus at its posterior end projects backwards into a tongue-shaped lingula. What we see here is the posterior extension, which is seen as a tongue-shaped lingula. This lingula lies over the posterior opening of the pterygoid canal. We now see the superior orbital fissure. It is a triangular fissure connecting the lateral portion of the middle cranial fossa with the bony orbit. It is bounded above by the lesser wing of sphenoid, below by the greater wing of sphenoid bone, and medially by the body of the sphenoid bone. The common annular tendon or the tendinous ring of Zinn is attached to a small projection seen on the lower border of the fissure. The common annular tendon divides the fissure into lateral, middle and medial parts through which traverse a lot of structures. What are those structures? Through the lateral part, we have the lacrimal nerve, the frontal nerve, trochlear nerve, superior ophthalmic vein, meningeal branch of lacrimal artery and orbital branch of middle meningeal artery passing. Through the common annular tendon, that is the middle part, the upper and lower divisions of oculomotor nerve, nasociliary nerve and the abducent nerve pass. And through the medial part, the inferior ophthalmic vein and sympathetic twigs from the internal carotid sympathetic plexus pass. Next, we go on to see the foramen rotundum. It is present in the greater wing of sphenoid bone. It is located just below and behind the medial end of the superior orbital fissure. It leads forwards into the pterygopalatine fossa. It transmits the maxillary nerve. Next, we go on to see the foramen ovale. It is located posterolateral to the foramen rotundum. It leads inferiorly into the infratemporal fossa and it transmits four structures: the mandibular nerve, the accessory meningeal artery, the lesser petrosal nerve and emissary vein. Next we see the foramen spinosum. It is situated posterolateral to the foramen ovale. It leads inferiorly into the infratemporal fossa. It transmits the middle meningeal artery, the nervus spinosus and the parietal trunk of the middle meningeal vein. Next we see the foramen lacerum. It is a foramen with irregular margin between the sphenoid bone and the apex of the petrous temporal bone. Carotid canal and the pterygoid canals open into it. Only two structures pass through the foramen lacerum. These are the meningeal branch of the ascending pharyngeal artery and emissary vein. Internal carotid artery traverses its upper part along with its sympathetic and venous plexuses. Nerve of pterygoid canal or the Vedian nerve is formed in its upper part by a union of greater superficial petrosal and deep petrosal nerves. We then go on to see the anterior surface of the petrous temporal bone. The trigeminal impression is a depression for the trigeminal ganglion just adjacent to the apex of the petrous temporal bone. A ridge limits the trigeminal impression posteriorly. The roof of the internal acoustic meatus is a depressed area just behind the ridge. Arcuate eminence is a prominent elevation behind the second depression and it is produced by the superior semicircular canal. Its posterior slope lies over the lateral and posterior semicircular canals. We then go on to see the superior border of the petrous part of the temporal bone. It is grooved by the superior petrosal sinus. The margins provide attachment to the tentorium cerebelli, and it is crossed by the trigeminal nerve near the apex of the petrous temporal bone. The lateral part of the middle cranial fossa shows markings of the middle meningeal vessels. Depressions produced by the gyri of the temporal lobe of the cerebral hemisphere may also be seen on the lateral part of the middle cranial fossa. Thus, we have seen the various features of the middle cranial fossa. We saw the boundaries. We also saw the important features, the important foramens and structures passing through them. Thus, we have seen the details of the middle cranial fossa. Thank you.